Before we begin, Doki Doki Literature Club is a game with a lot of very intense and sensitive themes and images. While there will be a brief discussion of these themes as it pertains to the video's thesis, for your well-being and ours, we will not be showing any of the offending images. Thank you. Also, this video will contain spoilers for the full game. With all that said, let's talk about Doki Doki Literature Club, a game artistically and morally beholden to the thick foreshadowing that at many points kills its illusion. For those who don't know, Doki Doki Literature Club is a visual novel created by Dan Salvato with his company Team Salvato. And here's where the actually comes in, because for fans of the game, I've just embellished the central lie in Doki Doki, foreshadowing the topic of the video. Get it? I foreshadowed the topic, which is about foreshadowing? God, I'm funny. Doki Doki is a wolf in sheep's clothing, a psychological horror game, and in the words of our editor Ryan, a virus, masquerading as your standard woo the waifu dating sim. If you're taking your time, your first playthrough of Doki Doki will take a little under 4 hours. The first 2 hours keep up the illusion that this is what it seems to be, where you have minimal control over a protagonist who joins a high school literature club populated by your childhood friend Sayori, the bookish Yuri, the fiery Natsuki, and the club's president Monika. Through a mechanic where you can write poems to tailor your protagonist's personality to cater to the girls, you can woo Sayori, Yuri, or Natsuki, but not Monika. This is important later. As the story continues, no matter your actions, Sayori confesses her love to you as she slowly reveals her long-standing battle with depression to the protagonist. And then, and it is very, very clear to say that this cannot be stopped, changed, or delayed in any way, Sayori hangs herself. It is one of the starkest images I have ever seen in a video game, and it is burned into my skull. You can decide on your own if that's a good thing. The game then glitches out and starts over, but with a broken script in place of Sayori. From there, the game continues to break as it tries to repeat itself without Sayori, and more awful things happen to the girls in the literature club. Despite its plot, the most curious thing about Doki Doki was its explosion in late 2017 on the YouTube gaming circle. Doki Doki Literature Club was released for free and launched rather unceremoniously in September of 2017 as one of 1,000 visual novels flooding the Steam store. I like to think there are a few people out there who picked the game up looking for another dating sim, only to be shocked and appalled at the back half of the experience. I firmly believe this method of play would be the most in line with Dan Salvato's vision for the game, of a Trojan horse horror story designed to disturb, critique, and shock. But that didn't happen. That didn't happen for two very important reasons. The first reason is that Salvato, who has said he released the game for free because of its intense twist, gave some warnings in the Steam page. The first was that the primary tag for the game is not visual novel or romance, but psychological horror. And that both on the game and in the first moments of the game, a warning is given that this game is not suitable for children or those who are easily disturbed. While it is possible that some could overlook this, most wouldn't. The second reason is that with the game's rampant success a few months after its launch, the pieces started to add up that things were not as they seemed. Mainly because of one important question. Why in the hell would people recommend I play a visual novel? Something must be up here. And of course, something was up. The audiences for visual novels and horror games couldn't be more different, so when Horror Nuts started playing this game, the audience could tell that Dan Salvato had something weird up his sleeve. So if Salvato designed the game itself to be a giant trick on the player, why were there so many tells, some out of his control, but many within it, that gave away the
something truly goddamn strange is going on!
Ah, no! The short answer? Because he had to. I've been consuming media my entire life, and often some of my favorite media has been dark. I bring this up because I am the perfect audience for this game, and overall, it's fair to say that I do love Doki Doki Literature Club. Not everyone does, and I would be lying if I said it's a conclusion I came to easily. And that complication, despite Yuri's self-harming, Natsuki's abuse, or the meta-horror terror of Monika being self-aware, all comes down to that one painful image of a young girl hanging in her bedroom. The warning, the foreshadowing, while they could be helpful for the more cerebral horror, it is a necessity for the blunt visual thrust onto the player halfway through. Does it potentially ruin the plot twist since the plot hinges on this moment? Absolutely. But as a player, it sets your spidey sense ablaze or ready for this mysterious moment. The implied contract of the game is that very bad and very sensitive things are going to happen, so when it does, it's a twist and not a trick. There are two kinds of good foreshadowing: artful and necessary. Artful foreshadowing is just that, a shot of a gun in the first act that will be fired in the third to keep the audience invested. Necessary foreshadowing, which Doki Doki uses, removes that investment. The scenes show the curtain is pulled back and the implied contract is written with the audience there. Without this, the twist can leave players bitter, cheated, or even hurt, as opposed to other stories where the worst outcome is the player being merely annoyed. You know what you did, David, and yes, it's still bullshit.
The killer is walking around free as we speak.
But the heavy rain twist is simply stupid. It's not harmful or potentially harmful. I can't say if the sudden shift in DDLC is harmful. My thoughts on it are too complicated for me to make that sort of declaration. What I will firmly say is that it will and has hit some people like a freight train. I have shown this game to people where even though they knew what was coming from the game's heavy setup, they still were deeply disturbed and not in the good way. If the game didn't prepare the player properly, when it pushed them into the deep end, that may have been too much for them to handle. I very well may have lost friends if the game treated its audience like this. It's a tricky line trying to moralize about art, especially when the art itself is, well, when it's this. It's transgressive, subversive art meant to disturb and confound. To some, it's the kind of art that is free from moralization. It's antithetical to the whole point of making this kind of art, that art is above humanity. If I had written this video a year ago, my point may have been different. That Doki Doki's heavy tells ruin the experience, the well-being of the audience be damned. I'm not that person anymore, though. Because I am a person, not a program glitching out and enjoying the pain. I'm real. Real enough for Monica to fall in love with, and real enough to realize that art might have to accommodate for the world, and not the other way around. As someone who loves weird, horrific art, I don't want games like Doki Doki to stop being shocking or violent or even traumatic. But Dan Salvato's cards bled hours before his characters did, and I think that made all the difference.